methinks this is going to be a fun one. We're going to talk about sex and NFP. Mom, Dad, don't watch this one. Hello everyone, I'm Regina Lux and you're watching Veritas on the Rocks. Firstly, sorry I've been touch and go. I've been working on other projects, which I will reveal pretty soon. I promise I'm working to get back onto a steady video making schedule. As always, you can find me on Facebook, where I have other video content I don't post to my YouTube, and memes. All the time. All memes all the time. Last week was NFP Awareness Week, and I meant to make this video then, but since I'm a hot mess, you get it now. So what is NFP? NFP means natural family planning. Okay, some more clarification may be necessary. Natural family planning is when you employ specific sexual behavioral methods used for either achieving or avoiding pregnancy without the use of barriers, such as pills or condoms, which also helps instruct people in understanding the science behind their bodies and reproductive systems. Now, I want to make a quick note that yes, NFP can be extremely helpful in helping people to become pregnant and helping women figure out underlying issues with their health. The more you learn about your body and fertility, the more likely you are to catch when things aren't working quite right. Go figure. However, I'm going to be discussing NFP used to avoid pregnancy and encouraging people to look into this more scientific and natural way of living to help your health and your relationship thrive. That's part of my shtick. Trying to help people on a personal level identify issues within themselves, their relationships, and learn how to best thrive. What are some reasons why you might want to look into practicing NFP? Well, other than the perks of learning about your body, you might want to use it to avoid pregnancy for health or financial reasons. Couples will also use it because their romantic relationships might not thrive under the pressure of pregnancy and parenthood. Whatever your reason, it is between you and your spouse, and you don't owe anyone else an explanation for your desire to avoid pregnancy, just as you owe no one else an explanation for how many children you have. My very first video was comebacks to people who question your family size. I was approximately 6 months more naive, so go watch that to see how much I've grown. I'll link it at the end. I do need to clear up some misconceptions. Pun absolutely intended. I always intend my puns. NFP is not the rhythm method. I'm shocked this stupid myth still persists. Stop it. Embrace some science. The rhythm method is the outdated concept that every woman has a standard cycle, with ovulation occurring on day 14 of each cycle. And we know that all that is simple rubbish. Every woman's cycle is different, and they can even be different month to month. Having a blanket approach to all women is clearly inefficient. So, if someone tries to compare NFP to the rhythm method, feel free to flex your intellectual prowess and correct them with some veritas. You might have also heard another false assertion that NFP is the birth control practiced by Catholics. While it's true that NFP methods are what are sanctioned by the Catholic Church in order to avoid pregnancies, however, I want to be super duper clear about something right now, which might even upset some of my fellow Catholics. NFP is not birth control. Do you know why? For the simple fact that doing something is not the same thing as not doing something. Choosing to have sex and use a barrier is not the same thing as choosing to simply not have sex. Choosing to perform an action or choosing to not perform an action are not the same thing. Therefore, no. NFP is morally permissible within church teaching, simply because you are not seeking to behave in a certain way and getting away with it without consequences. You are simply not performing an action. Understand? Trust me, I'm an armchair theologian. So let's go over the various NFP methods. Now, I am not an instructor, nor a medical professional. Therefore, I am not qualified to give more detail about the various methods. I can only speak for my own. If you are an instructor, I invite you to comment with more info and any links to your classes. The first method I'll breeze through is called Billings. It's when you try to determine your fertility using observations of your vaginal discharge. There's an emphasis on vaginal sensations, which indicate whether or not your body is telling you it's baby time. The next method is called Crichton. It's similar to Billings, yet this model invites you to really observe through actual handling of your discharge. Then there's symptothermal. It's based on your basal body temperature, which changes according to your fertile and infertile phases. The next one is Marquette. This is the one I use. There's the least amount of guesswork in it, and because I'm extremely fertile and can become pregnant if my husband just winks at me from across the room, this is the one I use. You track your levels of estrogen and pinpoint when it rises, indicating when your body is sperm friendly, i.e. sperm can survive in it and wait for a luteinizing hormone surge, which then releases an egg for fertilization. The egg lives for between 24 and 48 hours, after which time you are no longer fertile, and you can have happy baby making practice without fear of conception. Mom, seriously, I told you not to watch this one. So what are the benefits of NFP? Why should you consider ditching the artificial birth control and opting for the natural route? Point 1, it is cost effective. You would spend the most money on education, and even then, you can research methods and figure them out on your own. You don't have to have an NFP instructor. You've got the Google. Marquette is considered the priciest of the NFP methods, since there is a monitor that can run you about $130. It was actually $200 when I got it. You also need to purchase test sticks for it, which are about $40 a box, depending on where you get them. This method is super capitalism friendly, and wants you to spend that monthly. However, I know my cycle fairly well now, and I only use 3 sticks a month, if at all. There are also LH strips that you can buy in bulk, which usually run me about 18 cents each. Once you learn this method, you can easily get away with testing with just the LH strips, which is less than $1 a month. The symptothermal method requires you to buy a thermometer. Then there are apps that you can use with this method. If you want to get techie, Kindara has some fun tech for it. They had a product called Wink, which will take your temp, then automatically track your cycle for you in an app. Very easy. The Crichton and Billings method are even less expensive, so NFP is very cost effective, if not free. It's environmentally friendly. There's far less waste and far less of an effect on the environment to create what few products you need to practice your method. No side effects. When someone practices NFP, they are free from the several side effects associated with taking artificial birth control. There's long been an established link between a lowered sex drive when a female is on the pill, ring, patch, implant, or IUD. Women in relationships who are on birth control have, ironically, less sex drive and overall less sexual encounters than those who are not on it. There's also been a study in which it was observed that the female clitoris had shrunken and women reported less frequent orgasms and intensity of the climax. Hormonal birth control is also linked to increased rates of depression and suicide. Other side effects include weight gain, cramping, irregular level of bleeding during periods, rashes, decreased appetite, nausea and vomiting, headaches and migraines, mood swings, water retention, yeast infection. There's a reason why men wouldn't take a birth control pill if there was one for them. And how is this, willfully taking on side effects like this, more empowering than simply learning your body? Men making women be responsible for whether or not pregnancy occurs by making them feel obligated to embrace all this? Where's the feminism? Thousands of lawsuits have been filed in recent years against manufacturers of various birth control pills for serious health complications suffered, including heart attack, stroke, deep vein thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, gallbladder disease, as well as increased risk of cancer and blood clots. There's now likely a strong connection between infertility and long-term birth control use. I personally would love to see some studies on long-term effects of mothers breastfeeding while on the pill. One friend of mine is convinced her infertility was due to her mother's being on the pill while she breastfed her. Now, one can argue that they were put on birth control in order to help with a medical issue, such as acne. Here's the thing, that's a Band-Aid. If someone is having medical issues or symptoms, you should probably find out why you're having those symptoms, rather than try to seek out to control them. Symptoms are a sign that there's something wrong with your body. You could be doing potential long-term harm by not delving into the actual cause of what is going on, listening to what your body is trying to tell you, and starting a healing process. Guess what? Taking a class 1 carcinogen isn't exactly the best way to start that healing process. Which brings me to point 4. Learning your fertility health is not only freeing, it's life-altering. If you track how your body reacts when it's in peak fertile conditions, then if there's a symptom that presents itself and you know it's abnormal, you can do something to address it. People have caught cancer so early on because they have tracked their fertility. Fertility health is usually an overall indicator of general health. If you're in peak fertile condition, your body tends to be healthier. There's a reason why women experience awful side effects when menopause hits. When a female is on birth control, she displays out-of-ordinary dating psychology. They display mating preferences to men who have lower levels of masculine traits. Consequently, these women also attract men with lower levels of masculinity, i.e., the women who are on birth control have altered their pheromones to give out signals to men that they are less fertile. Therefore, the more virile males, who have more of a biological edge in the provider and protector role, aren't attracted to those women. Those men tend to be naturally attracted to women whose pheromones indicate that she is an ideal mate for breeding. My own marriage is a case like this. I'm an alpha female married to an alpha male who excels in the provider-protector role, and I was not on any sort of hormones when he was initially attracted to me. We were both extremely fertile specimens who were physically attracted to one another, having 4 children in less than 4 years, and we were both pretty atypical insofar as masculinity and femininity, and we complement one another very well. So you see how feminine I am. My husband is extremely masculine. Marine Sergeant. The altering of the female body chemistry is also a reason why, when women become pregnant or when couples are trying to conceive and women go off of their birth control for the first time in their relationship, there's a sudden immense tension as each partner realizes they aren't as attracted to one another as previously thought. They are now smelling how one another authentically smells, and there is such a thing as chemistry. And there's very little chance a couple's chemistry is going to match up if, well, the woman changes hers. So our hormone levels play a very key role when we are seeking out potential mates, and messing with them doesn't lead us to the most ideal mates for us. Women, this is a hot tip if you've been lamenting that you can't attract a quality man. When you have full control of deciding on a monthly basis whether or not you want to bring a life into this world, it's extremely empowering. When you know your body well enough to track your symptoms and you know what to expect, it's much more emotionally freeing. There's less of, why do I feel this way? And more of, oh, I'm on cycle day 27, I'm likely PMSing. You might feel like you have control when you're using birth control methods, but it's actually a much more false sense of control, as I'll later cover with success and failure rates of various methods. Since you're more likely to know the date of conception when you practice NFP, you will be able to more accurately pinpoint how old your baby is, which aids in measuring throughout the pregnancy and can stop potential risky induction dates or help catch abnormalities. NFP can potentially make breastfeeding easier since your body isn't fighting artificial hormones. Lowered milk supply has also been linked to artificial birth control. Divorce rates amongst couples who practice NFP are drastically lower than those who do not. However, I acknowledge that there could be several other factors that affect this, such as religion and the family expectations to stay together. I will say, though, that I have personally witnessed NFP strengthen couples' relationships simply because your fertility as a couple becomes an us thing, rather than the female's responsibility. Reproduction becomes a positive thing over a negative one, and you can identify the actual science behind it and feel reassured, not fearful. It also subconsciously teaches men not to use their wives for sexual gratification, and to actually learn and revere her fertility and femininity. Fertility becomes something empowering, not just some sort of disease to manage. Her womanhood and ability to create life is now viewed as amazing, not a problem. It takes time to learn an NFP method, and it's something couples should tackle together, which will most likely help them grow together too. Not to mention, you'll likely have more sex, since you'll be able to see how many days you've got left available, as opposed to having the mentality that sex will always be available, therefore it's less precious. Plus, men, your wife will be less likely to have those pesky side effects from birth control, and there will be an overall more peace in your relationship, since she's not physically plagued with symptoms. Men will also be better able to communicate with their spouse, know her cycle date, know when she's likely starting to PMS, and come home with chocolates to give her a back rub. So all of these points are well and good, but it's pointless if NFP doesn't actually work to prevent pregnancy. There are many people who are actually against NFP, if you can believe it. I honestly have no idea why someone would be. It seems rather silly to me, honestly, but they still exist. And one of the things they might tell you is that NFP is ineffective in preventing pregnancies. Well, I don't know where they go about getting their numbers from, but once again, feel free to flex some intellectual awareness and enlighten them. According to the Crichton method, the success rate is 99.5%. The symptothermal method success rate is 99.6%. The Marquette method boasts a success rate between 98 and 99%. The Billings method boasts a success rate of 99% too. Are you seeing the pattern here? Now, all this is well and good, but let's look at the percentages of failure and success rates of the most common barrier methods. According to the Planned Parenthood website, the pill has a failure rate of 9%. 9%. 9%. For those of you who might need some help with math, that's a success rate of 91%. Also, according to them, the average failure rate for condoms is 15%. 15%! Personally, if I was trying to avoid pregnancy, I would be scared to death of having sex while using a barrier method. Like, these are some pretty startling stats, guys. I wish I had the time and wherewithal to look up every single birth control method, but seeing as this video is already a week late and I want people to watch this and do their own research themselves, I'm gonna gloss over that. Now, the CDC claims on their website that the failure method of NFP is a whopping 23%. Yet they don't give sources or go over which method. They just sort of lump them all together. It has been alarming to see the CDC chock full of unawareness about fertility. Then again, I'm not surprised. I myself had to inform medical doctors that females have a window of fertility because they thought women could become pregnant at any point in their cycle. Those were a few sad times that did not strengthen my faith in humanity. So why are NFP methods more effective than barrier methods? Well, the simple scientific fact is that women simply aren't fertile most of the time. When you don't have sex when you aren't fertile, you don't get pregnant. Gasp, imagine that. When you use a barrier, you feel a sense of sexual license and feel more of a false sense of security. So you are more likely to have fertile sex. Fertile sex results in conception. Fake gasp. I also wanted to address the fact that I have always used NFP and my children were not NFP failures. They were all wanted and anticipated. Just because someone has a large family and they practice NFP does not mean that NFP doesn't work. Maybe some people just like kids. So you might notice that I make a point of not posting sources in my videos. There's actually a calculated reason for that. I want you to do your own research. If I provide certain links, you might blow them off with a bias. I have always maintained that the best teachers are those who tell others where to look, but not what to see. I want people to discover truth on their own, without my trying to shove it down their throats. This is an important topic that every couple should delve into, and your partner should be the one you do that with, not some random chick on the internet. I invite you to look into medical scientific sources. I'm an introductory level to reason and logic because I cover a wide variety of topics. Once again, all of them are to try to help people live better lives and to make the world become a little bit better to live in. I'm Regina Lux, and this has been Veritas and the Rocks. To ignite truth and logic. Now, boldly go.